Hi, this will be a quick introduction to Brian Cornelius CRNA. So back in 1995, I came across an article in a newspaper talking about the Junior Rescue Squad. So I started off, got my EMT at 16, and went on to paramedic school. After that, I worked as a firefighter paramedic on the predecessor to that nice piece of apparatus right there in the middle, Heavy Rescue Squad. And then I went on to do critical care transport in Northern Virginia, including being at the Pentagon on September 11th and taking some burn patients from Arlington Hospital up to MedStar in DC. So healthcare is kind of a mess, as we've all figured out. Customer service is number one, except in anesthesia, everything's beeping. After working in the field for a while, I went on and worked as a flight paramedic and on into nursing school. My first flight job was in Houston area, and then I went on down to Corpus Christi and worked as well. On the left side there is the day and night assistant manager for the trauma ICU where I worked. He's also a CRNA now. My first nursing job was the ER in Galveston at UTMB. I thought this was kind of entertaining after Ike, the boat being in the middle of the road with UTMB in the background, especially if you pay attention to the name of the boat. Started off, did my BSN at the University of Texas, El Paso, then went on down to Miami and did my master's degree in anesthesia at Florida International, and finally did my doctorate at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. As a side hobby, I work as a tactical paramedic for the sheriff's office. A couple pictures there, my commissioning, a SWAT exercise, bottom left, getting ready to go do a narcotics warrant, and then a little bit of nighttime shooting through the NVGs. So it's kind of funny that I'm back here now. My family is originally from the Brownwood area, a little place called Zephyr. On the left side, there's some of our family brands. The next picture is my wife and kids. I've got two little boys that are kind of a mess, and they're full of themselves. And then we also have a herd of Belgian Malinois. So they're kind of nicknamed the Maligator, but they're very much part of our family. If you haven't figured it out yet, anesthesia is responsible for everything. Also do a fair amount of research in public speaking. The bottom left, I'm presenting at the Pediatric Trauma Society. I've been honored to present there once, and presenting there again this year. And then at the Arizona Association Nurse Anesthetist Conference. As part of my research, one of the biggest projects we did was implement low titer whole blood in our trauma center. So that was one of the first units we gave. That's kind of an accomplishment. And then on the right side is kind of the sum up of the mantra there. Remember, blood belongs in the body. It's science, so we try and do things to either put blood there or keep it there. I've also been privileged to serve as a reservist with the U.S. Public Health Service as part of the National Disaster Medical System, and has taken me all over the world. The top left picture is our field hospital. We have a 2-bed OR in a procedure area, as well as a 10-bed ER and 10-bed ICU, and we've set that up across the world. Bottom left is Hurricane Harvey down in the Houston area. We've also done multiple deployments to the Capitol for special security events. And then the bottom right is what the anesthesia machine looks like, so it can be pared down quite a bit. I'm also one of the few civilian CCAT validated CRNAs in the country. So I've been privileged to do multiple missions as part of the disaster critical care transport team. And the most recent of those being repatriation of COVID patients from China, Japan, and California. And I spent about 2 weeks flying around in that little tiny Learjet transporting all sorts of people. Before I came here, I had the privilege to work in Shreveport with some of the most awesome SICU nurses. So the important thing is, remember, not only who you work with matters, but the ICUs, the ORs. So it's not just your anesthesia staff. Everybody helps you be a better provider. Some of the places I've worked and trained, I had the privilege to train at Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood, Florida, and at the same time we also went down to Miami Children's. When I finished school, I started working at LSU in Shreveport, and they've changed names a couple of times, but it's now Austin LSU. Also did a little bit of work at East Texas Medical Center out in Crockett, Texas. I still work part-time at North Caddo Medical Center. It's a small single-provider critical access hospital. And finally, I've just started working at JPS in Fort Worth. Some action pictures. I don't do a whole lot of selfies, so the left side is my partner for 8 years working nights. In a high volume trauma center, we're privileged to say that out of that time, we only lost 2 patients on the table, and funny enough, it was 2 days in a row. The middle picture is my wife and I in the trauma bay, and then finally the necessary COVID selfie. And if you had any questions or need anything, here's my email.